Okay, so we learned how to sync the Maya and UDK grid spaces to roughly about the same thing. Well, it should be exactly the same. Um, but now you have your grid set up, but how do you move around? How do you zoom in and out and pan left to right? Um, for let me make a quick shape, and you'll notice all these different options up here, which I'm not going to get into this early. But what I'm going to stick to right now is just polygons. And just check up here too, just in case I go into some options. Standard by default, Maya has animation up here. And just click the arrow and come down to polygons. And select polygons here as well. And what I'm going to make is probably just a quick cylinder, just to keep it simple. And the way you do this is you'll click on the shape and it'll say drag on grid. So all you'll do is come down to the grid wherever you want to put it. Doesn't matter really for this demonstration. Um, but you'll pick it, you'll come down to the grid, and you'll left click and hold, and that'll make the outside of the shape. Well, at least for this cylinder it does. With other shapes it does different things first. And then it'll say drag up to set height. So what that's asking you to do is left click and hold again and go up and down to show how tall you want it. And for now, I guess this will be okay. Now, what I'm actually going to do, I'm not going to leave this with all the edges showing like this. I actually want not really textured, but an actual physical model. And so what I'm going to do is click this right here. It says smooth shade all. And I'm also going to click texture just because it's a habit at this point. So you'll click by standard, it's this first little box right here. We want to click the one right next to it, and also the checkered one, which is the texture. So kind of jumping ahead a little bit, if you had, let's say this was a Coke can, since that's what it kind of looks like. If you had a texture that you put on it and you didn't have that checked, well, you've put the label on it, but it's not showing anything. And if you click this, then it will show it. That's pretty much all it's for. So what we're going to jump into now that we learned how to kind of make a shape, so to speak, and you're probably still way out here. What you're going to do is hold Alt and hold your left mouse button down, and that'll get you to kind of flip around, rotate a little bit here. But that doesn't help us right now, especially if you're still out this far away. With the mouse wheel, you don't have to hold any buttons, you just kind of zoom in. Now this may not help you either. Maybe you're kind of angled out here, or maybe your shape is made down here on this part, and so you're zooming in like right here. To pan, which is what I'm doing right here, you're going to hold Alt and then hold down your left mouse, or your mouse wheel, I'm sorry. So hold Alt and just click your mouse wheel down. Now you got to be careful with that sometimes, because you'll click your mouse wheel and you'll wind up like zoomed way in here, or you'll click it and somehow wind up like way out here. Luckily it doesn't move you away, so if you just zoom back in or zoom back out, you'll find your grid again. Well, let's say it doesn't really apply in this demonstration, but let's say you wanted to zoom in, but you don't want to use the mouse wheel because it kind of jumps. No matter how easy you roll it, it kind of jumps. And maybe it's jumping by the grid squares, I'm not sure. But I know it jumps and it's not very precise. So if you had a bunch of stuff going on here and you were this close, but there was maybe an edge right there that you just couldn't get to, and then you wind up in here, and then you wind up there and back again, and you just can't get a real good direct hit, I guess, so to speak. Hold Alt and your right mouse button. This will zoom you in really easy. That way you can be more precise. So you can, move over a little bit, hold down the right mouse button with Alt, and kind of zoom in really nice, not jumping any squares or anything. Now, let's say you wanted to move this. Let's say you wanted to move this thing or rotate it or make it bigger. Maybe you didn't make it good enough your first time when you made it right here. Um, so what I'm going to show you first is actually on any object or anything you have going on, if you hover over whatever you want and hold the right mouse, you'll get all these different options here. Now if you don't have anything selected and you come out here, it's just going to be these. But if you hold on an object, you get all these different things. You have edge, vertex, vertex face, face, multi, UV, and object mode. Now edges are these big rectangles you see right here. For some reason, or I'm sorry. Edges are the lines right here. That was my bad. For some reason I always think face should be on the top. I guess because the head and face is usually at the top of the body. Anyway, so you have edge, so that's these little lines right here, and you can select them, if you wanted to alter something going on with them, make like this, I don't know, but so that's what the edges are. The vertex are all these things you see, these little purple dots. You might not be able to see them. These yellow dots now, I just selected them all so you could see it. So you have those, and they're also on the bottom. If you also made a cylinder, they're on the bottom too. And you can make more. You can make a lot more than what's being handed to you right here. And the faces are the long rectangles in the front. I mean, you can play around with them, just kind of select them or whatever. Now to do that though, I guess I should show you how to move stuff or how to manipulate it. And for the basics, I'm just going to show you the three, the move tool, the rotate tool, and the scale tool. And there's two ways you can actually use these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click or hold right mouse button on my cylinder, and I'm going to go to object mode, and I'm going to select it so it picks everything here. It picks the entire thing. It doesn't just pick one edge, or it doesn't pick one vertex. It picks the whole thing. I'm going to go over here to where it shows these little like pyramids looking thing, and it's the move tool. It's got an arrow right here. I'm going to select it, and those familiar with UDK probably recognize this shape. I mean, it's, I guess, pretty universal with 3D space. So there's the move tool. With this still selected, I'm going to go over to the rotate tool, which is right under the move tool, by the way. It's just the sphere with an arrow going around it. So now you can move things and rotate it however you want to do it. You can, just whatever you want to do. Let me get this back to where it was. And right under the rotate tool is the scale tool. And the middle square is actually going to make the entire thing scale. It's not gonna make it longer or make it wider. It's going to make the entire thing longer and wider, I guess. And you'll see like these, you see those squares, you might not be able to see them, those three squares, you see them, they're kind of gray, and they're actually where these should be. It just shows you where you're coming from. So if you, I guess, wanted to go back to where you started, there you go, just let them go right there. But this obviously makes it longer, shorter, and this makes it wider that way, wider this way. Now you probably saw the shape go back to the way it started without me actually doing anything on screen. The undo key is Z. It's right next to shift. And that's your undo button. Now if you did something, if you undid something that maybe you hit Z too many times and wanted to go back, just hold shift and hit Z. I guess I went back too far. But it's shift and Z is how you undo an undo, or I guess redo. Now I guess what I want to show you now is go back into object mode real quick. I want to show you the paint tool, which is really convenient, and it'll probably be the last thing I show you here as far as these things go. The paint tool is used to select multiple pieces like you see me doing right here. So let's say there was, I don't know, something that you only wanted to select the sides, like this, well, there, and let's say you wanted to make only the sides bigger. So now you see there's like a dip on both sides, and it's pretty basic, but I'm gonna hit Z and go back. But that's what, that's used for, if you wanted to select only certain surfaces and actually manipulate those without manipulating what you didn't have selected, which was the top and the bottom in my case. But you can also, in the same sense, you can hold shift and left click and it's the same thing. The only problem is, with something this small, I would probably do shift and just click them like this. But if you have a cylinder that is, I don't know, we'll say 64 subdivisions, that's just kind of crazy. I don't know why anybody would do that, but you see how many things you would have to actually go through and click, and that would just take forever. So to get rid of that, all you'd have to do is paint it, and you see how fast that goes. It's a lot quicker than shift select. Now, one last thing before this video is over. Actually, two things. I did kind of skip the move tool. If you, let's go back into object mode real quick. Instead of going over here and picking all these, you can also do W for the move tool. So there's a quick select right there, and go ahead and start moving stuff around. Or E is the rotate tool, which is right next to W, and R is the scale tool. So I didn't want to skip that. That was one of my main points, is to get those hotkeys going there. Now, another hotkey that I want to show is actually copy, which is if you go back into object mode, click your shape, whatever you made, and then do Control and D. Now I'm going to hit W for the move tool, and there we go, we have two. And I'm going to go back to something we learned a minute ago and hit Z, but that copy's still there because you can see all these little lines going. And hit Z again, and it's gone. So we only have one now. Back to one. Okay, so the last thing I want to show is actually the space bar. And if you hit space while you're in perspective view, you just tap it. It'll go into the 4 window, which is, you have the top, the front, and the side. If you hit it again, it'll bring you back into perspective mode. And if you hold it, it'll bring up all these different things, and all these you can see, they're like file and edit and modify, which are all up here as well. And you can even click on them, it brings up the options that they have. And but what I want to show you this for is right here in the middle. It says Maya, and you want to right click on that and hold it, and now you have all these. You have perspective view, top view, front view, and side view. And I mean, that's really, really good, because I'm going to go into top view. Now you can see the grid with your object. And this is really good for being really precise. I mean, you can go into like the side view. Well, there we go. You got the side view now. So if you wanted to align it, mine's kind of crooked now, but you could align it to fit exactly on this grid line right there. Now it looks like a leaning tower or something. So I mean, that's definitely a good thing to know. So hold spacebar, you have all these options, and a lot of these we can get into later. But for now, hold right click on Maya, and you have all these different views. And there's also this over here, this button right here. You have perspective view, and you have the 4 tiles. So I mean, you can do whatever you want with that. But for now, I'm going to leave you to it, and hope you watch the next one.